my mother taught me to always seek to be a woman of destiny, a woman of purpose. She would always look at me and say, you are who God says you are. You have potential, and don't let anybody tell you otherwise. So I grew up, I had issues, yes, but basically my mother taught me to always trust God and to follow him into whichever door he opens, feel safe to go through, because God loves me. Yeah. So basically with that at the back of me, I was able to push through many circumstances and conditions that would have probably kept me back or probably make me a different person. But I thank God for his grace and his mercy. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you say some situations that might have keep you back, because I know, like, I know my grandmother, your mom, was very impactful on you becoming a nurse.
Yes.
And that kind of stuff is something that she always really wanted for you. So you could tell us a little bit about that?
Over that part.
Yeah.
All right. So I always wanted to be a nurse, and my mother would always say to me, once God has instilled it in your heart, yes, go for it. He will provide. So I remember applying to nursing and never got a response. So this particular day, what I would do is my mother sold items, household items. She will buy it from a company, and we would go on a van, and we would sell to different places, right? I remember this particular day, she looked at me in the vehicle and she said, "Have you heard from the people concerning nursing?" And I told her, no, I hadn't gotten anything. And unknown to me, we drove. I didn't realize where we were going. But she asked my brother, Tony, apparently to go straight to hospital. And she came out and she walked with me, and then she said to me, "Wait here, I'm coming back." I still wasn't sure what was happening. So she apparently went up, found out where the principal of the nursing school was, went into the office, and apparently explained to them that she has a daughter who really loves nursing, and that I applied and there was no response, and she wanted to know why. So I just saw my mother come downstairs and signal to me to come. Now at that time I don't know if many of you from Trinidad will know what a rubber ding ding is. A little rubber slipper, rubber slipper on my foot. I could never forget that. I had a little half skirt, all, and just a t-shirt, right? And she told me come. Still, I didn't know what was happening. She told me come. I went, and we took the elevator up. And when I got there, the principal of the school came out and said to me, "Your mother has said to me that you want to be a nurse and so on. We're sorry we didn't send out anything. We thought we did, but we will interview now, because interview is very over. They didn't plan to choose anybody else. But since my mother came on that particular day, when the principal was there, she interviewed me one time. So by the time I left that interview, I was in tears because I was a bit upset. My mother said, "Look at my condition, look at my hair, look at my, and she said to me, "You don't worry about that. My Father, my God, will change the hearts of those people. Once it's his will, and I know it's his will." And of course, within the next few days, I was shocked to get a call from the school stating that I had been accepted. Even though, I was told, look, probably next time. Year. Yeah. No. So that is how I got into nursing. Of course, actually beginning the program was another challenge because, of course, we didn't have money in nursing. The books were very expensive. My mother had to get uniforms for me. We had to get shoes. We had to get everything, right? But true to form, she came through. And I started nursing. That was in November. And I started on the 4th of January to start to do nursing. And that is how I am today a registered nurse and licensed midwife.
For 40 years.
Over 40 years experience, yes, because it was really something I loved. I believe that it was the calling on my life. I believe that this is exactly where God wanted me to be and what he wanted me to be. Yeah. And he just opened door. Because, I mean, some people will say, well, it just happened, or circumstances, boy. It's just so your mother happened to. No, I think it's by direct intervention of God, direct direction, right? She listened and God told her to go then. She went then. She met the right people. And today, let me tell you, today, that principal of the nursing school comes to see me from time to time. And she's always telling me, up to 2 weeks ago, she was at my nursing home. And she said, girl, I'm so proud of you. And I will always remind her, remember how you got me onto the program, you know? So it is amazing. 40 years after, we are still in touch. Yeah. As a matter of fact, she just placed, about a few months ago, she placed 2 patients with me, 2 of the residents with me, right? 2 of her colleagues, sisters.
Yeah.
Because she said she had all faith. And it's amazing the way God opens doors. And when he opens doors, don't be afraid for you too. Don't be afraid to go through, regardless of what people tell you. Right? Regardless of what the law say, regardless of what people say. Once God opens that door, no man could shut it.
Yeah.
And we would never know what is beyond that door unless we step in.
Yeah. So from you going from helping Granny sell stuff, right, to you being in the school, what that feeling was like how long was the school and then graduating from school?
Right. So school was 3 years.
Okay.
I had to actually move into the nursing hostel, which was a challenge for me because I had never been away from home. Right? We were always with my mother. My mother did a lot of different things, but we were always either school or home. And here it is now, I had to live away from her. So what transpired over the next 3 years is my mother would visit me very regular. I had a problem with the food. So up to today, I have a problem with certain foods.
Yeah.
And my mother would come on nearly every day. She will cook and I will see her appear at the classroom door. She brought food for me. A sandwich, but mainly food. Because whenever I ate the food at hospital, somehow, I don't know if I was allergic to some of the ingredients, but I would always end up on the ward, vomiting and so on, right? So she would bring food for me all the time on a continuous basis. So much so that after a while, she started bringing bigger bowls because some of the other girls had to share. Not to share. To share because we didn't have refrigerators and things at that time in our rooms. But she would bring more because the girls started calling her moms. So when moms were bringing today, moms what so she provided a support for even a lot of the other nurses who were there, who were away from their family and was craving home cooked meal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she died young, right?
Yes, my mom, she died at 63.
Yeah.
And that was very hard for me because I always would ask God to allow her to live so that that she could see the fruits of her labor, so that she could see what I would become, so that I could help her. So what I did do though is I remember let me give you this story. I never knew that my mother couldn't read or write. Never knew. When we went to school, when we got back home, my mother would sit with us and open the book. I never even noticed that the book was upside down sometimes, right? And she would tell us, yes, okay, thing, One day I went in year 1, I decided instead of me always having to go to the bank to take out money to give her, because I wanted her to get
That's
money
year
to
1
buy
of
food.
nursing.
Year 1, I decided that we would let's go and open an account together. I'll join her account with me, my account with her, so that she could, and I'll give her a card so she could take out money anytime. So when I got to the bank, I spoke to the teller. I told her what I wanted. And when it was time to sign up, I signed. And then I saw my mother indicate to the teller to go down the corridor, go down the lower counter. So I looked and I pretended I wasn't looking, but apparently she spoke to the teller and told her that she couldn't write her name. And they went for a pad, a stamp pad, and my mother signed her name with her thumbprint. It was only at that time. And sometime after, long after I asked her. And then she admitted no. She said when she went to school, she was taken out of school very early, and she never learned to read or write. But she was determined that her children would learn to read and write because she knew that education was the key. She felt that she was kept back because she did not experience education, but she knew that that was the way forward. And from this woman who couldn't read or write, you have nurse, you have doctors, you have engineer, you have lawyers, you have scientists, business owners, you have scientists, you have teachers who have their own business and who teach par excellence to children who would not have been able to read or write, right? From this one lady who could not read or write. So sometimes I imagine where she may have been or how far she would have gotten had she got the opportunity to go to school.
How old she would have been now?
She would have been, like she died. Something? Yeah, she would have been about 80, 85, between 80 and 85.
And that's still pretty young.
Very young. Very young. Yeah, she would have been, she might have been here with me today.
Yeah.
Because that's...
Or at least with you, with your... Like,
the nursing home, of course. But she may have been traveling with me. I would not have left her behind. Definitely. And I'm coming out of that. I promised her to take care of Movin, your uncle Movin, who was mute and mentally challenged. Fell down a flight of steps at the age of 2 and could not talk and sustained some brain damage.
Yeah.
And to today, he's 65. But he's like a 5 or 6 year old.
Yeah. Like balloons and stuff.
But balloons, toys, cars, trucks, teddy bears. Every day at the nursing home, you have to give him a balloon. Right?
So what was the reason why she was taken out of school though?
My mother, my grandmother, and my great-grandmother were indentured Indians. Her mother got pregnant with her. She didn't know if the mother fell in love with this gentleman, this man, but they don't know how she got pregnant, but she was pregnant. So my great-grandmother decided, and grandfather decided to marry her because in that society, you get married very early, right? And having a child out of wedlock was not an acceptable thing then. So they got her an arranged marriage with somebody else in the division, another East Indian man. And what happened is that when she was born, her grandmother, which is my great-grandmother, loved her all. She was the first grandchild. She would hide under her dress and she had a very loving home. Until she got, I think she told me when she started about 5, 6 years old. She had long, apparently East Indian hair. But then around 5, 6, 7, the hair started to kink. It started to get curly. so it was then that her supposed father, who was married to the mother, realized that, according to the villagers, I don't know if I can say this on this podcast, but a nigger man was there before.
Yeah.
A black man was there before. And what happened in Indian Trail, the Indian and the indented Indians were higher up, and lower down were people from Africa and from local, right? So something went on there, and then, so what happened when her then father recognized what took place? It was a big. By then he had other children with my grandmother, but it was a big stain, right? So what he did, he pulled my mother out of school at that young age and had her home like a maid because she had black. So my mother, she would recount how he would beat her because she had to take the children, her brothers and sisters, on her back. So she would walk them to the standpipe that was so far away, and she would shower, bathe one, and then she had to put them on her back because he didn't want their foot touching the ground after it was clean. And she would have to go home on their back, have them on their back, walk home, change them, get them ready for school, one at a time, right? And then she would walk up all barefoot. She was barefooted, and she would walk up to the school, which was a long distance away. So she walked with all of them. And she said she would leave them at the gate. And she said tears will come because she kept wondering why she couldn't go. Why she couldn't go into school. Right? So she would give them bye-bye and so on. And then she had to walk all the way back and then go and do all the house chores and so forth. Right? She even gave the story of many times when, for whatever reason, the stepfather would come home and he's drunk also, and he would look for her to beat her. And she says sometimes the grandmother would have her hidden under her orani, or under her dress. Because remember, they had the East Indian way where the dress was very pleated.
Yeah.
She says sometime after the grandmother died, she would have to, sometimes she used to hide under the house and pray that there was no snakes and so around until he fell asleep. Because once he catch her, that was it.
And that's the house up the hill. Yeah, up the hill.
Yeah, no, that was the house in Indian Trail. Remember, we were born in Indian Trail.
Right, yeah.
The name of the area was called Indian Trail.
Yeah.
So she had a very, very hard life. And at the tender age of 17 going on 18, she got married to my father, who was 10 plus years older, was already married before, and his wife had died, and so forth. So she had that was another thing again, another era in her life. That was a challenge because she now has 10 children and had to care for them,
Yeah, equally.
Yeah. Yeah, so she had a hard life.
Yeah. I don't know.
She loved God.
For some reason, when you was talking about her when she was younger, I could just picture her looking like Jada.
She looks very much like Jada.
Yeah.
Jada looks very much like her.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you see her picture, her hair was just not as curly
as Jada on.
Yeah. So you had to look good to see that
she was black.
Yeah. But her features, the nose and so on, you could tell that there's black there.
Mm-hmm.
She looked just like Jada and also looks very much like Ruby.
Yeah.
My niece in England.
And her name was Ruby. Her name was Ruby.
Yes.